There are moments when you meet someone, and it's as if the atmosphere bends around them. The way he enters a room doesn't just change your mood, it shifts your entire internal compass. Something in you recognizes him before your mind can catch up. But here's the question. Is it fate? Is it destiny? Or are you just projecting another fantasy onto a stranger who fits the shape of your longing? Carl Jung believed that these encounters, especially the ones that stir your soul and unsettle your logic, are never random. But the purpose isn't always love in the romantic sense. Sometimes, it's a psychological initiation, a deep push from the unconscious meant to awaken you to yourself. The truth is, not every man who shakes your spirit is meant to stay, but some are meant to start the fire of transformation. Let's start with the first clue that he's not just another man, but a mirror chosen by the universe to reveal you to yourself. Clue 1. The mirror of your shadow. When Jung introduced the concept of the shadow, he wasn't talking about something evil. He meant the parts of yourself that you've hidden, not because they're bad, but because they didn't feel safe to express. Anger, desire, fear, raw sensuality, even your power, anything that was suppressed to belong or be loved. And here's the kicker. When a man walks into your life and activates that shadow, your body knows before your mind does. You may feel magnetic attraction, uncontrollable yearning, or even sudden waves of fear and resistance. But it's not just chemistry, it's your psyche responding to its reflection. This man somehow has stirred a part of you that you've tried to ignore. Say you've been avoiding your anger for years, always playing nice, keeping the peace. And then he shows up, and he's blunt, assertive, and unapologetic. Something in you burns when he speaks, but you can't look away. Or maybe you've buried your sensuality under layers of independence and control, and here he is, fully embodied, awakening a hunger you thought you'd long outgrown. It can be intoxicating and terrifying. Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This isn't just about the annoying traits you notice in someone. It's about the qualities you're unconsciously drawn to, because your soul wants them back. In many cases, this kind of connection will trigger you, but that's the point. He's not triggering you to hurt you. He's mirroring the unclaimed parts of yourself. You may feel like you're falling in love, but you're being pulled toward wholeness. That electric sensation in your chest? That's your psyche lighting up. So, how do you tell the difference between attraction and shadow activation? Here's a clue. If the connection feels both exhilarating and uncomfortable, if it exposes you and asks something of you, it's not just chemistry, it's a mirror. And the universe doesn't send mirrors by accident. This man might make you feel things you didn't know you were capable of. He might challenge your need to stay in control. He might bring you face to face with the very emotions you've spent years avoiding. That's not a flaw in the connection. That's the lesson. Because love, in Jung's view, isn't just about sweetness. It's about soul growth. This leads us to something deeper. Once your shadow is stirred, the next layer opens. Clue 2. The awakening of the animus. Inside every woman, Jung believed, is a masculine blueprint, a psychological structure that represents strength, direction, and discernment. He called it the animus. This isn't about gender roles. It's about the inner energy that determines how you assert yourself, how you dream, how you speak your truth. And here's where it gets powerful. When a man enters your life and awakens this archetype, you'll often feel an almost mythic pull. It's not about who he is on paper. It's about who he activates in you. At first, this might look like an obsession. You fantasize. You overanalyze. You imagine that he's the one who will make you whole. That's not love. That's projection. It's the unconscious animus at work, seducing you with a dream of completion. The animus, in its immature form, says, "Find the right man, and everything will be okay." It makes you chase validation, abandon your needs, and lose yourself in the pursuit of being chosen. You see him not as he is, but as who you want him to be. But when you begin to integrate the animus, when it matures, you stop seeking completion through him. You begin to recognize your authority, your strength, your purpose. And when that happens, the man who once looked like a savior now looks like a reflection. You admire him, but you don't depend on him to feel valuable. You can sit across from him and feel attraction without anxiety. You can share ideas without shrinking. You can love him without dissolving into him. That's how you know the connection is sacred. Because he doesn't eclipse your identity, he enhances it. If you've ever met a man who stirred both your feminine softness and your masculine focus, your intuition and your direction, you've likely encountered an animus mirror. And that is not a coincidence. That is an invitation. Jung would say this kind of connection isn't about romantic fantasy. It's about psychic evolution. And it will only deepen if you stop chasing a happy ending and start listening to what the connection is waking up inside you. Now, let's move to the third sign, the one that makes your soul whisper, "This isn't random." It's not based on fear or longing or childhood patterns. It's something stranger, something cosmic. Clue 3. The signal of synchronicity. Jung describes synchronicity as the mysterious alignment of inner and outer events, not coincidences, not lucky accidents, but messages coded in dreams, numbers, moments, and signs. If you've ever dreamed of someone before meeting them, or kept seeing their name in strange places, or felt that your lives collided in a way that defied logic, you're not crazy. You're being spoken to. And no, this doesn't mean he's your forever. It means something in you is being initiated. You're being called to notice, to slow down, to reflect. Because synchronicities are less about the other person and more about what is being activated inside you. Maybe the timing feels too perfect. Maybe you see the same symbol again and again. A white feather, the number 1111, a song that plays every time you think of him. These aren't fantasies. These are markers. They're invitations to ask, what part of me is waking up right now? When the universe brings synchronicity into a connection, it's not asking you to grip tighter. It's asking you to go inward, to notice the shift in your dreams, your desires, and your fears. It's asking you to step into deeper awareness, because this connection, whether it lasts or not, is a threshold, not a fairy tale, not a possession, a portal into becoming someone you haven't met yet, your whole self. And that's just the beginning. So many of us have been trained to chase love like a prize, conditioned to believe that if someone shows up with fireworks and intensity, they must be the one. But Carl Jung would caution us, when you feel the ground shift beneath your feet, when a man makes your soul tremble, it may not be because he's your forever. It may be because he's your mirror. And mirrors don't stay to comfort you. They stay just long enough to reveal the truth. But how do you know if this connection is truly divinely aligned, or if it's just your old wounds dressed up as destiny? The answer isn't always found in how he treats you. It's found in who you become when he's around. If this man's presence doesn't just flatter your ego but rattles your identity, that's a sign. If he doesn't play into your fantasies but instead challenges you to confront your fear of being seen, your need for control, or your discomfort with surrender, he may not be a rescuer. He may be a soul catalyst. Here's the paradox of soul-aligned connection. It will feel both sacred and uncomfortable. You'll want to run, and yet something in you will beg to stay. That's because real growth lives at the edge of discomfort. It doesn't hide in fairy tales. It lives in the raw, pulsing truth of being seen and still choosing to remain open. So when he mirrors your shadow, your animus, your unconscious stories, it's not to torment you. It's to illuminate what still seeks integration. Because wholeness requires awareness, and awareness is often born in the fire of relationship. That fire might burn, but it also purifies. One of the most damaging illusions we inherit is the fantasy of the man who will fix everything, the one who will validate our worth, heal our wounds, and make us feel safe forever. Jung referred to this as the unconscious animus projection, the belief that if we find the right man, we'll be whole. But here's the truth. No man can complete you, and the ones who feel like they might often only reflect the parts of yourself you've abandoned. The danger in idolizing someone is that you become blind to their humanity and to your power. You forget your voice. You shrink your boundaries. You become addicted to the approval that once felt like destiny. So if you find yourself obsessing over a man who feels fated, but also triggers anxiety, fear, or self-abandonment, pause. That's not alignment. That's your psyche asking for healing. Ask yourself, am I seeing him? Or am I seeing the parts of me I wish he could carry? Jung would say, projection is the birthplace of most illusions in love. But when you become conscious of your projections, something miraculous happens. You start to see him as he is. And more importantly, you start to reclaim the parts of you that you thought only he could provide. We often think that the right relationship should feel like floating. No resistance, no fear, no conflict. But in soul-aligned love, the opposite is often true. When a man is truly chosen by the universe for your growth, he will not let your defenses run the show. He won't reward your emotional shutdowns. He won't play along with your perfectionism or avoidance. Instead, he will quietly, or sometimes fiercely, call you back to yourself. You may feel exposed in his presence. Not because he shames you, but because he sees you. You may feel uncomfortable, not because he manipulates you, but because your coping strategies stop working. You won't be able to pretend. You won't be able to hide. And strangely, that will feel like freedom. Because being deeply seen, raw, imperfect, vulnerable, is the only way true intimacy can grow. And that's the gift of a man who is aligned with your soul's journey. He doesn't flatter your mask. He honors your truth. Jung believed that relationships aren't random. They are psychological laboratories. Every trigger, every fight, every silence is an invitation to awareness. So when this man enters your life, it's not about whether he stays. It's about whether you stay awake. Does his presence encourage your voice, even if it trembles? Does he hold space for your tears, without trying to fix them? Does he challenge your beliefs, not to dominate you, but to help you see yourself more clearly? If yes, then this is not an ordinary romance. This is a soul contract. And that contract isn't based on permanence. It's based on presence. He may not promise forever, but he will walk with you as long as the journey serves your growth. He will not ask you to abandon your mission. He will ask you to remember it. It is also important that you let go of control and trust the flow. This is one of the hardest truths to accept. Just because someone was sent by the universe does not mean they will stay forever. Sometimes the man who awakens your anima, your shadow, and your strength is only meant to walk with you for a season. He's the spark, not the shelter. And this is where most people get stuck. They cling to the connection, mistaking transformation for permanence. They try to hold on tighter, afraid that letting go means failure. But the universe doesn't work that way. Jung taught that individuation, the journey of becoming whole, isn't about holding on. It's about becoming conscious. And sometimes that means letting go of the person, but keeping the lesson. So instead of asking, will he stay? Start asking, what have I learned about myself because of him? What did his presence awaken in me that I had forgotten? Who have I become because of this connection? Because that's the real magic, the real measure of destiny. What are the signs of a soulmate? When the universe sends someone into your life to truly grow, there are subtle but powerful clues. You feel seen, not just praised. They acknowledge your light and dark sides. They don't flinch when you express your fears. They don't romanticize you, they see you. You have to grow up now. You don't give up on your dreams for them. You become more in tune with them. They don't distract you from your purpose. They strengthen your focus. You don't get addicted to the feeling of excitement. Instead of chasing negative emotions, you feel a steady sense of peace. Even amid uncertainty, your nervous system feels stable when you're with them. You find your voice. You speak more honestly. You express your needs. You stop showing off and start being your true self. You stop asking yourself, am I good enough? Because you feel your worth, not in the eyes of your partner, but in your reflection. This isn't a love story that exists to entertain your fantasies. This is the kind of connection that breaks illusions, burns away fear, and leaves behind the bones of your true self. And even if the story ends, it doesn't mean it failed. Because what you've gained is not a relationship. It's a resurrection. You've likely heard the phrase, if it's meant to be, it will be. But Carl Jung would have asked a deeper question. What does meant to be mean for the soul? Because sometimes, what's meant for your healing doesn't look like a happy ending. It looks like awakening, like clarity, like a sudden break in the clouds that reveals just how far you've come and how much further you're meant to go. When a man is sent by the universe, he rarely arrives in the way you expect. He doesn't show up with a map. He shows up as a mirror, and that mirror reflects not your imagination, but your wit. Have you ever wondered, What happens after the spark? In every soul connection, there is a moment when the excitement wears off, when the chemistry stops being magical and starts to get serious. This is when the real test begins. Can you continue to love when the triggers are there? Can you stay open when vulnerability requires you to risk rejection? This man may not always feel like a fairy tale, but he will feel true. He might ask you to be honest even when it's hard. He might reflect your deepest fears not by wounding you, but by refusing to play the role your ego casts him in. He might stop feeding your illusions and start feeding your truth. And when that happens, many people panic. They say, "It was magical at first, but now we argue. Now I feel exposed. Now I'm not sure." But here's the thing. Magic isn't the sign of a soul connection. Growth is. And sometimes, the most sacred love is the love that doesn't soothe your wounds. It invites them to heal. Here's a truth I think you should know. Love doesn't rescue you. It reminds you. If he's been chosen by the universe for your journey, his role isn't to save you. It's to stand by you while you save yourself. He won't gag you to keep you safe. He'll want to hear your truth even if it's messy. He won't ask you to shrink back to keep loving. He'll challenge you to grow because he sees your potential more clearly than your fears. His presence won't feel like an escape. It will feel like returning to yourself. That's how you know. Because the right man won't distract you from your alignment. He will make you remember it. In Jungian psychology, individuation is the process by which the conscious and unconscious self come into harmony. And for many women, that process is triggered when they feel emotionally safe enough to soften. So if you're wondering whether this man is part of your soul's path, ask yourself, do I feel safer in my body when I'm with him? Does my nervous system relax? Do I feel free to express desire, to cry, to speak, to rest? These aren't small things. They are sacred signals. The right man doesn't just excite you. He grounds you. He doesn't just stir your emotions. He stabilizes your sense of self. He doesn't ask you to perform your femininity. He holds the space for it to rise naturally. You'll notice you don't have to work so hard to be enough. You just are. And in that space, your intuition sharpens. Your voice steadies. Your creativity expands. Not because he gave you anything, but because he reminded you of what was already there. You will know him not by how he controls your attention, but by how he honors your expansion. He'll want you to chase your mission, not chase him. He'll celebrate your sovereignty, not fear it. He won't compete with your purpose. He'll stand beside it. This is love that feels like breath, not suffocation. This is love that mirrors the divine rhythm of your unfolding. There will still be conflict. You will still trigger one another, but the foundation will be built on respect, on truth, on presence. You will feel encouraged to say what needs to be said, not just what's easy. You will feel safe enough to disagree, not because he agrees, but because he listens. You will be invited to grow, not through pressure, but through presence. One of the clearest signs that a man is a soul catalyst is not how smoothly things go. It's how consciously you respond when your old patterns resurface. You might notice yourself wanting to please him just to avoid conflict, but this time you pause and speak honestly. You might feel the pull to merge completely, to lose yourself in the romance, but instead, you remember your center and come back to it. You may feel the urge to run when things get too intimate, but now, you breathe and stay. This is what conscious love looks like. Not the absence of fear, but the courage to act differently in the presence of it. Carl Jung would remind you, the unconscious becomes conscious not through thought alone, but through relationship. And in that relationship, you start to witness your evolution. With a man who is truly chosen by the universe for your growth, you don't just survive, you expand. He inspires you to take responsibility for your emotional world. He invites you to express needs rather than manipulate to get them met. He encourages you to hold space for yourself, even as you hold space for him. You stop waiting to be chosen. You realize you've been the one choosing all along. That's the power of a soul connection. It brings you back to your center. He may not walk the entire path with you, but while he's there, he'll walk beside you, not ahead of you, not behind you. You don't lean on him to avoid falling apart. You walk together to remember that you were never broken in the first place. It's easy to romanticize these connections, to hope that the synchronicity means permanence. The mirror will also become the home. But Jung never promised that. He simply said, when the unconscious finds the right vessel, it will reveal itself. Sometimes that vessel is a man, and sometimes that man is only here to help you meet yourself. So when he leaves, if he leaves, it doesn't mean the love was an illusion. It means the love was a teacher. Because the ultimate lesson is not about whether he stays. It's about whether you've become more whole, more honest, more alive because he came. In the end, the man chosen by the universe for your soul's evolution won't make you question your worth. He won't feed your insecurities to keep you small. He won't use love as leverage. He will look at you and say, I see you. And more importantly, you will see yourself. You'll stand taller not because he lifts you, but because you stopped crouching. You'll speak louder, not to be heard, but because you stopped silencing yourself. You'll love deeper, not to keep him, but because you've learned to stay with yourself. Jung would say this, the real love story begins when you choose your truth, even when your heart is open. When you meet another human being, not to be saved, but to walk awake. If he's the one, you won't need to convince him. You won't need to perform. And you won't lose yourself trying to keep him. Because he wasn't sent to complete you. He was sent to remind you that you were always complete. And if that's not love, then maybe love is something we haven't fully understood yet.